Okay, let's do this. Hello everybody, it is everybody's favorite Goth BF, TenTillDeath, and we're back with another little video discussion. No editing, no nothing. It's just going straight up one take. That's how we're doing it these days. No more of that. No more of that professionalism. Just straight up, old school YouTube style, you know? And today we're going to be talking about a very serious topic. Some of you guys are already aware of this, some of you guys aren't. But we're going to be deviating a little bit away from what you guys might think that we're talking about. And today we're going to be talking about the fetishization of being goth. But not just any fetishization of being goth, but more so being fetishized as a goth guy or as an alternative person in general. So this isn't necessarily, this doesn't just apply to being a goth guy. This can also apply to any alternative individual. And of course, there's a lot of video essays and video discussion topics out there that talk about this same topic, but from the female perspective or from the non-binary perspective, right? But you never hear anyone talk about it when it comes to being a guy. And I don't think there's that many guys out there that have actually talked about this. There's probably a forum post or two out there, or maybe some obscure YouTube video. But I feel like I need to discuss this. Now, before we even begin this topic, we're going to have to give a little bit of a background info for this little discussion that we're going to have. So, if you don't know, I'm going to fill you in on a little bit of information. So some people out there think that being goth is a fetish, right? And they'll use stereotypes to try to justify why it's a fetish. Oh, look at how they dress. Pain. All just very horrible cliche stereotypes. Right? And not everybody, applies to those stereotypes, right? Or the other argument I've heard from some people is, well, if you go on a certain website that rhymes with corn and rhymes with pub, you can find goths on there. And to that, and I've talked about this in a separate video, you can find white girls on there. There's a literal whole category on there dedicated to, how do I put this, to owning white people. To put it lightly, I'm not going to go into details. We're not about to get moist here in this video. We're not going to get moist like that. That's rather pretty raunchy. So that completely, nullifies that entire argument. So let's get into this. So, many people already are aware. A lot of goth people get fetishized, and especially now, in the digital age we're in, goth girls, they get fetishized a lot. You see it on TikTok, you see it everywhere. Everywhere. The memes! People are like, I want a goth GF, I want a goth dummy mommy. And I remember hearing this thing for a while, and as a psychology person in training, psychology student right now, and even having studying psychology for almost a year before I entered college, so I can get into that field. I can tell you that this little statement I've heard from people recently, I think there is some truth to it. The statement that, a lot of goth guys, not a lot of goth guys, a lot of guys that want a goth mommy are mainly guys with mommy issues. And as a guy that had mommy issues myself for a long time, I understand. I understand. So, what is it like being a goth guy, and getting fetishized? And not just being a goth guy, this can apply to any guy that's alternative. Any guy in general that's alternative, because it is a real thing. And I know that, there's probably not many people out there that actually talk about this from the guy's perspective. This is not to, invalidate the female perspective, invalidate the non-binary perspective. Those perspectives are completely valid. Those perspectives are very important. But, it's also good to talk about, it's also good to hear from other people whose voices aren't really heard as much. And I feel like there's not a lot of guys that actually do speak up on this. And I'll tell my personal story. What's it like to be a goth guy or an alternative guy getting fetishized? Now, I'm going to tell you guys this from my experience. A lot of guys would be like, wow, that has to be the greatest thing ever. You know, you're getting fetishized as a goth guy. All these, you know, all these people want you. They want a piece of like, you know. But, you know, over the years, I've kind of realized like I'm not really you know, how do I put this? I'm not really a sexual person as I think I am. And what I mean by that is, you know, I kind of learned in the past I was using that stuff more so as like a self-esteem boost. But as the, you know, years have gone by, I've kind of come to, you know, terms with myself that, you know, stuff like that just does not interest me, right? Like I'm a very, you know, just low sexual need individual these days. Like I can literally live without it. It's nothing to me, right? Like I don't need that in my life. Like it's not a necessity in my life, right? So, you know, to me, like I don't need, you know, to have sex all the time. I don't need sex like that. Like it's not a must for me, right? So for me, you know, it really kind of just turns me off. It really kind of just turns me off when I'm getting fetishized. It turns me off as an individual. It makes me feel disgusting about myself, to be rather, you know, frank about it. And like, good example, 2020, yeah, I'll just tell the story. It was the year, I think early 2023, yeah, early 2023, so not that long ago. I mean, yeah, not that long ago to me. You know, I was going through some stuff, right? Going through some stuff. A lot of people called me goth at that time. Some people called me emo. It just depended on a matter of perspective at that time. And, you know, there was a lot of girls at the time that really liked, oh, you know, you look like this very bad, brooding, you know, type of boy. You look like the bad boy type of person that, you know, and everyone has their own, you know, little kinks. Everyone has their own little fetishes. You know, nothing wrong with that, but you have to set a line. You have to set a line on, you know, what fetishes are actual fetishes versus what is you just being like just completely just you know, and we're not kink shaming or anything, but you got to set a line, right? It's like the whole little goth girl thing. Like being goth is not a fetish. That's what I mean. If you have a fetish for alternative people, okay, but if, you know, I mean, you guys get what I'm saying. I'm about to, okay, let's just get back to the topic. Anyways. So, you know, met this girl, and there's many girls out there like that, where, you know, they saw me on the apps and stuff, and they were like, oh, man, look, you know, and they were really basic girls, really basic individuals, non-alternative people, and they would see me on the apps, and they're like, oh, look at this bad boy, you know, all pierced up, black long hair, you know, I want a piece of that guy, you know, he's probably into some, you know, deep freaky stuff. And even at work they would make jokes about me. They would make jokes all the time. They're probably at work, they would tell me, they're like, dude, you're probably into that nasty freaky stuff. And dude, that's kind of, you know, I get it, it's jokes and all, it's kind of funny, right? It's kind of funny, but at the same time it's like, what the heck, man? Why are we talking about this at work? Like, seriously, why are we talking about this at work? That's disgusting. That's disgusting. So, you know, met a girl, local university over here, and, you know, she does makeup. And she hit me up with a message of like, you know, hey, I'd like to do your makeup and stuff, right? And so I was like, okay, you know, sure, why not? And so, you know, we mingled, we talked for a bit, and at that time I was experimenting. I was kind of experimenting. I was trying new things in my life. I was going through my mental health phase because I really wasn't doing too good up here mentally. So I was trying to, you know, get on the right path. But I knew at that same time I had to start experimenting, trying things that I normally wouldn't try because I was always so stuck in and so closed in. So at that time I was really trying to make progress and branching out and trying different things, right? Get out of my comfort zone. And so, you know, I dated someone I normally wouldn't date. And, you know, me and this girl, we mingled. She seemed pretty cute. Former Instagram model. I'm like, all right, you know, we're talking. We talk about music and stuff. Now, she's not into the music that I like, but she knew some of the bands that I liked. She knew some of the artists I liked. And I think that we were both able to bond over Taylor Swift at the time, which I know. But calm your horses there. There's some good Taylor Swift songs out there, I'll admit. There's some good ones. I used to listen to her when I was a kid. I plead the fifth. So, as I was with this individual, we became boyfriend and girlfriend, whatever. And this is at the same time I was going through, my mental health journey. I was finding out about I was finding out a lot about myself. I was finding out about my sexuality. I was finding out about my fears. I was finding out about, my triggers, all sorts of different things that made me me. Things that I just could not understand years prior. And the sexuality thing was a big thing here. Because, she was very high sex drive individual. So, she wanted to get it on a lot. And this is where the fetishization comes in. Check this out. Over the course of our relationship, before I found out she was cheating and I decided to break up with her because I don't do that. I'm sorry. Just cheat on me. Hey, man, it's over. Whatever. She made a lot of comments. She said how she would tell me how much it would turn her on just because I had long black hair. She would tell me how much it would turn her on just because I smoked a cigarette. And, to her, because she said, how disgusting and stuff, smoking a cigarette was to her and how risque it was, it would just turn her on. And she would tell me all the time that just being around me, me being all dark and brooding and all that stuff, turned her on. And she was a very non-alternative person. So could you picture that? Could you really picture that? And she would tell me all these different things about me. She would tell me all these different things about me that she found hot. And I wouldn't force her to say these things. She would just come out of the blue, out of the woodwork, out of nowhere, right? But at some point it kind of just clicked in my head to where it just made me I started to feel disgusted. Right? Now most people be like, how could you feel disgusted about that? You're having this girl that, high sex drive, energy and all that stuff. But as I was sleeping around with her, I kind of realized several things about myself that, I'm not really like a high sex drive individual as I thought I actually was all these years, And it was around that time I was figuring out that, I was only having all this sex as a, low self-esteem coping mechanism, and that I'm not really a fan of it, right? So, check this out. So, eventually it kind of hit me to where all these comments she was making about my appearance, how much it turned her on, how sexy it was, how, earrings that I wore and all that stuff, just this entire dark, brooding complexion that I was facing, that I was showing was just a turn on to her and would always make her, turned on all the time. It started to make me feel disgusted about myself. Because it kind of really started to hit me really deep where I'm like, hold on a minute. This person's just getting turned on by the way that I look, right? Which, of course, this kind of a thing, right? Like, people get turned on by the way things look. If someone finds something hot, they get turned on, right? That happens. But it kind of made me realize that, like, it was getting to the point where she didn't like me for me, like, for, who I was, aside from my outwards appearance. She only liked me for the outwards appearance, right? For the dark, the brooding, the risque, smoking a cigarette, which smoking a cigarette, it's not, she's Gen Z, right? Smoking cigarettes to Gen Zers, that's pretty risque these days versus vaping. So, I get that, right? But it really started to hit me close to home where, every comment she was just making about me, had to do with my appearance just turning her on. And it wasn't me turning her on, it was my appearance. And she, that's when she would come out to me and she would tell me, hey, man, I like guys that look like you. Guys that look like you, I have a thing for them. But she was a very normal, basic individual. And I'm not gonna lie, you know, all those comments that she made about me for months, when it hit me, making me realize that she didn't like me for me, that she just liked the outward appearance and it was turning her on, I really started to feel disgusting about myself, because I'm like, dude, like, and like she would just have all, you know, describe all these things about me in very sexual manner, and it just made me feel disgusted. And I'm just sitting here, I'm like, dude, this is someone that's talking about me, and I get it, they're trying to be complimentary about it, right? But they're saying it in such a rather like just a way, you know, just a rather like, I don't want to hear. It really started hitting me to where I realized, I'm like, I don't like it when people talk about me like that in such a manner. Like, I don't want to hear someone, like, I don't want to hear someone want, you know, come up to me and tell me how much they want me to, you know, just them and stuff. Like, it makes me feel disgusted about myself. I don't want to hear those things. And, you know, that's when I realized, after all that time of dating them, that they only saw me as a fetish. And I really felt disgusted about myself. Like, I felt very disgusted, and I had a disdain for myself for a short time, because I was like, ew, I can't believe I would, you know, have sex with someone that only views me as their little sex toy. And it wasn't even just that, you know, they wanted to do all this hardcore stuff, and they even pretty much even confirmed that based on my appearance, they assumed that I would be into all this crazy, you know, sexual fantasy hardcore stuff. And so that really drove it home for the fact that this person only viewed me as their little fetish. And it's disgusting. It was disgusting for me as a guy to sit there and kind of realize, like, yo, what the heck, man? What the heck? And a lot of guys, they'd be like, oh, yeah, you know, that's got to be golden. That's going to be golden. Yeah, I get it. It's golden for you if you have a high sex drive as a guy. But for me, you know, realizing all these years later, I don't got that. I'm not like that. Like, truly, deep inside, I'm not like that. I just felt so damn disgusted about myself. And then I even, you know, for a short time, I really just, it made me go, man, dude, like, man, is this how, you know, the goth girls in the community feel? Is this how alt girls in general feel? You know, just becoming fetishized by all these outsiders and stuff. And that was kind of like a taste of my own medicine, you know, really knowing what it's like for a lot of these alt girls and goth girls to feel in the community, right? And I'm just sitting there like, man, you know, and to have it happen to me personally as a guy, it's just like, it really hits home. It really made me understand what it was like to be in, you know, the female perspective. And it's really not fun. It's really not fun. It's really not cool to hear all these, you know, sexual, perverse, twisted comments being made about yourself as a guy. And for a lot of women out there, it's not cool too. And a lot of non-binary trans people out there, it's not cool to hear those comments made. It's really not cool. I mean, I get it, you know, you're just like, I get it. A lot of people out there, they just mean it to be complimentary, but like, really, it's just really creepy, dude. Like, it's like, what are you doing? So, you know, that's pretty much my story, my experience. And funny enough, I actually have a coworker who's pretty much an older goth, who was like a goth back in her heyday. And she was telling me, she's like, yeah, you know, back in the day, blah, blah, you know. And she still wears all black, but she said, like, back in those days, she would really get bullied in the workplace for that. And she was like, you know, you know, TenTillDeath, you know, they really thought it was like a freaking fetish and stuff back then. And I'm like, I know. The stories I've heard from a Verbs and Altar and from all the elders, I'm just like, oh my God, man. But, you know, I think we really need to, you know, I guess we need to educate people a little bit more. The memes are not helping. The memes are not helping, right? Like the whole little Goth Dummy Mommy memes ain't helping. You know, like all that stuff, it's not helping our cause. But I mean, you know, that was my experience. And that was as a guy, you know, getting fetishized. Now knowing what it's like, you know. So, comment. Let me know what you guys think. Let me hear your guys' experiences. hopefully YouTube doesn't try to, you know, censor those comments or auto-filter those comments, and if they do, I'll approve them. Because, you know, we're talking about something of this, you know, tone, this magnitude. So, till next time, peace.